Hey, everybody. Happy Saturday. Welcome to From Powerless to Powerful. I am your host, Rise and Win coach, Cynthia Newell. I run a spiritual life coaching business named Dare to Dream, where I show women how to give voice to their vision so that it has full expression in their lives. I'm so glad that you are joining me this Saturday afternoon. You are definitely in for a treat. On today's show, we're going to be talking about 3 things you can do when you feel disconnected. I want you to stay connected with me, so go on over to my website, which is www.cynthiasnewell.com. I have a lot of great free gifts there. If you missed the last show that I did on September 8th, 3 Steps to Take at Night Seasons, I want you to check out the replay on the Spreaker Network. You can find it under Elation Gospel Radio Network, which is brought to us by Miss Kimmy Robinson of Elation Gospel Magazine. Thank you so much, Kimmy, for sharing your platform with me. It is truly my honor and my my calling, to encourage and empower through inspirational teaching, spiritual enlightenment, and guided transformation. And I thank God for all the platforms that He has opened up to me to be able to walk in my calling, to operate in my gift. And so I just want to thank you, Kimmy Robinson, for welcoming me to your Elation family here. I believe that we all deserve to start waking up to a life that we love. And that's why through this podcast, my listeners get trained on how to release internal conflict. We face internal conflict all the time in big situations and small. And I have certainly faced a lot of internal conflict, and it has given me a lot of wisdom. And so on this podcast, through this podcast, I help you strengthen your resilience muscle so that you can enjoy the moments and minutes in your life. It's time for us to create a life that makes us want to jump out of bed, y'all, every day. And so today, I want you to sit back. I want you to listen and learn and laugh as I share tales of my personal tragedies and testimonies, my personal triumphs, and the wisdom that I receive from them. So again, today we're going to be talking about 3 things to do when you feel disconnected. Now, there have been times in my life, where I have felt disconnected, from the shift of life. But there's this one particular time where I found myself feeling gravely disconnected. And it was a time when there was so much contention in my home between my daughters and my husband, their stepfather. Every day in my home, it felt like a constant battleground. I was in the middle. And everyone wanted me to be on their side, and all I wanted was a healthy, happy family. And so let me give you a little background information. And so I grew up in a single-parent home raised by my mother, and my mother was a very good mother to my sister and I. She was young when she had us. She was 16 and 17 when she gave birth to me and my sister. My mother had vowed in her heart, that she was going to be a great mother, and at all costs, she was going to protect her kids. She was going to make sure that they had what they needed. My mother was a mom. She took being a mother, that came first over everything, being a mom. So my mother, she rarely dated anyone because she didn't want to have to, I guess choose between us and a man or split her time. She devoted herself to being a mom and being a really good mom. And as a result of her being a mom, she made some sacrifices. She had to come out of high school and parent us. And so in my mother's mind, motherhood came first. Her children came first. And so as we were growing up, that was kind of instilled in us. A lot of times we have things that are instilled in us subconsciously. We're not even paying attention to what's being instilled in us. And so I always knew at a young age that I wanted to be a mother. I wanted a family. So I had this whole dream in my head of having the husband, the dog. I don't know if you all can hear my dog, Max, barking in the background, but that's sweet old Max. But I had this vision of having the husband, the kids, the home, the careers, the success, family vacations. That was my dream. And so many of you who have been following me for some time, know that this is my second marriage. And so when the first marriage ended, I didn't so much lose the dream, but I, got away from it. So when I met my now spouse and he wanted to marry me, after my divorce, I kind of became the mom that my mother was. Seeing the hurt that my children, my daughters had suffered as a result of our divorce, I kind of shielded and protected them, and I held a lot of guilt in my heart about the divorce, so I parented them from a place that I would say where I used to let them kind of get away with things, and we were entering in like the preteen stage and the teenage years, and I'm in this place in my life where I'm redefining myself, and so my career, and I had made the decision to go back to school, so I had a lot of things going on, but as a parent, as a mother, as a now single mom, I had adopted the mentality that I was raised in of my children come first. I would date guys, but I never would really bring anybody home or anything like that to meet my children. So when I met my now husband back then, we were really good friends, and I remember the first time that he asked me to marry him, and I was like, well, no, I'm kind of scared because, my first marriage, and then I have my kids, and I want to wait until, maybe the kids are a little bit older. And he was, pretty much like, well, what about you? You're still a young woman, and I know you have dreams, and you want, a relationship. You're going to hold off on your life for your kids. And it really made me think, why would I, put this part of myself down just for my kids? Like, before you know it, they're going to be grown and gone. But I was still apprehensive. I was still apprehensive, but we still continue to date. And he was a very patient man, just as he is today. He was very patient. He was very vigilant. He was very diligent in pursuing me, which I really liked. So from his, from those experiences with him, being patient, seeing how he was long-suffering with me going back and forth, yeah, let's get married, let's do it. Oh, no, I'm not ready yet. I'm kind of nervous. I'm scared. And he would just be patient with me and just, okay, well, yeah, I love you and I really want to be with you, so okay. When I finally made the decision, I was nervous because in my mind I'm thinking, my kids have become kind of like a major part of my life where if it's not work or school or schoolwork, it's me and my kids taking a trip, me and my kids doing something. Am I really going to have room in my life for a relationship? But I had convinced myself, yes, I'm going to have room in my life for a marriage and a relationship, and this is going to work. And I started having all these beautiful visualizations of how the marriage and the home life was going to be, and that dream turned into a nightmare, y'all. It was a nightmare. It was as though my kids rejected him. I mean, he was okay when he was mama's boyfriend and he didn't live with us, and he wasn't my husband, but the moment he became my husband and he started residing with us, it was like my children turned into two different people. And, at that time, when he would tell me things about, the kids being manipulative, they're doing things, breaking things, and I would just be so naive, y'all. And I know it's some other women out here who have gone through this, but not that I thought that my children was perfect, but I'm like, why would they do that? Because they love me. Why would they try to hurt someone that I love? But, man, did I learn a lot about my children, during this process. And so over the years, things did not get better. It was like as the girls got older, and the longer he and I stayed married, it was like things just got worse. And I think that it was a perfect mix of, the fact that they were entering into their teen years, that contributed to it. Kids are really rebellious even the more in those years. And then they had a lot of changes going on, entering into high school and things like that. But still, my jaw was dropped because it was like they would do things that I just could not believe. And I, being the peacekeeper and the one in the middle, I would call these family meetings. We would have prayer. We would talk through things. And my husband he's 11 years older than me, so he's kind of like an old school kind of brother. He's like, no, it ain't no talking out. Those kids need to do what you tell them to do. That's it. That's final. And me coming up in a home where I didn't feel heard as much, no, I want to give the kids a voice. And, so we had the conflict there with that. And so, what started to happen was I started to withdraw. I started to isolate myself, and I stopped talking because my disposition was I don't want to be in the middle. My dream is that our family can be a strong operating unit. I'm from leadership. I'm from corporate. So, that's how I looked at my family. We can be a strong operating unit. We look at your strengths and we augment those, and we look at your strengths. But it was so much rebellion from my husband. He started being resentful. He started being angry. He started feeling as though I was taking their side. I'm trying to find a balance, and make sure that everyone knows that I love them. But in the middle, I'm feeling like nobody loves me and nobody cares about how I feel. And so my internal conflict in the situation, the conflict that led me to disconnect, was I loved my husband and I wanted our marriage. However, for a long time, it had been me and my girls. And so cleaving to my husband, even though the word says that, made me feel as though I was betraying my kids, and so I didn't know how to deal with it. And so I just kind of withdrew. I stopped talking as much. I stopped cooking, family dinners as much. I just kind of let everybody kind of ride solo. You look in the refrigerator and you find something to eat, because when we came together was not peaceful, and that disturbed my spirit. It vexed me. That's the word I'm looking for. It vexed me that we couldn't sit and have a family conversation at the table. It was just so abnormal. I'm that mom and wife that comes home. So tell me, what was the highlights about your day? So tell me, what did you enjoy most? And to sit there at the table and all you hear is forks clanking and spoons scooping, that really bothered me. And so family meals, I just kind of stopped cooking them, and I would eat in my room, something I never really used to do, but I chose to eat in my room. I let the kids kind of eat where they were, whether it was in front of the television. And my husband, he always enjoyed eating in front of the television, so he would find himself in the room. I would find myself in the basement a lot of times, and the kids, they would just kind of do what they were doing. I had reached a point, though, where I didn't like how detached I had become, and I didn't like the scene that I was waking up to every day in my home. No one speaking to each other. There was definitely a rift and a split between my husband and I, disrespectful behavior from my daughters, my husband feeling abandoned by me being disconnected, and then ultimately me and my husband making the decision to separate, because we just couldn't find like a place where, at the moment I couldn't really understand where he was coming from, because I was so engulfed in my mindset of motherhood, mommyhood, to the point where it was tough for me to transition from that. Or let me say it this way. It was tough for me to be mommy and the wife in a situation like that, because I point out in a situation like that because I have been the mommy and the wife in my first marriage who, that was my children's dad. But in this situation where it was just like so much animosity, it was hard for me to even deal with life. I would feel so drained. In this situation, feeling disconnected made me feel unhappy a lot of times. I didn't feel like my normal, giddy, bubbly, optimistic self. I felt really grim and down a lot of times, and I honestly felt, hopeless. Like, how is this going to change? And I felt like, my family was making what I wanted unreasonable, but I knew that it wasn't unreasonable, but they had their drivers, the reason that they were doing what they were doing. They had their reasons for that. Joyce Myers has a quote that I really love, and she says, "The greatest gift you can give to your family and the world is a healthy you." And that is so important, And so when I pulled back and I, made the decision that I don't want to live like this. Like, I love my husband. I didn't want him to be living in a separate house and us, visiting each other. We're paying rent at two different homes. And the reason was the children. Like, we were at the beginning of our marriage. I think we were maybe like 2 years in. So we had issues, but that was the biggest issue. But we were just learning how to mesh. And so that was not the vision that I had for my life. My husband over there and I'm over here. And so I started feeling out of balance because of my disconnectedness. All I thought about was the home and how unhappy I was because things were the way that they were. And so, that's what I want to talk about today. 3 things to do when you feel disconnected. And these are 3 things that I did to help me reconnect to myself, reconnect to life, reconnect to my dreams, reconnect to my hopes. Like, when you feel despondent and you feel disconnected, you feel like, what's the point? I wanted my heart to heal. I wanted my family to heal. I wanted the vision and the dream that I had for my life to come to fruition. And a lot of times, when we have these visions and dreams and God show us things or we accept them to be, there are going to be moments that we're going to go through that's going to be tough. And so that's why last show I talked about, 3 things you can do in the night seasons, so that you are not engulfed in emotional turmoil and you can't find your way back to a happy, healthy, whole place. And so today, just talking about when you feel disconnected because you are in a night season, what do you do? How do you get back? How do you nurture yourself? How do you get restored? How do you renew? How do you refresh? And I'm going to tell you what I did, to find my possible again, because I didn't see anything but problems. But through these steps that God had given me, and God coached me, God was my spiritual life coach. And everything that I share on my podcast, everything that I share on my teleseminars, in my blogs, my workshops, my classes, they are all from experiences that God has coached me on, and helped me work through. And so I'm here to serve you so that you so that you can start waking up to a life that you love. So the first thing that I did, and this is something that I always recommend to my clients in my Rise and Win coaching program and anyone that I'm coaching, my daring daughters, is that you need to pray. And not just those you need to pray with intention. You need to have strategic prayers. Now, when you first go in to do your prayer battle, yes, you want to have a heart-to-heart with God, and you want to talk, and I talked about this on the last show, but you want to tell God about how you feel, about what you're experiencing and what your expectation was, and how you're so disappointed, about the expectations not being met. And you want to ask God, those questions that are pressing pressing in your heart that you need to know the answers to. You know, a heart-to-heart with God allows you to get it all out. When you don't get it all out, it turns into sickness. It turns into cancer. It turns into stress. It turns into high blood pressure. It turns into diabetes. You know how? Because you're not taking care of yourself. You're eating to suppress what you're feeling. You're doing things that are just so unhealthy for your life, and so it turns into sickness. It can turn into sickness, you know, and you don't want that. So you need to pray. You need to ask God for wisdom. God, give me wisdom in this situation. I often say that and I share that with people because in every situation in my life where I did not know what to do, I did not know how to respond, I did not know what next step to take, I sought God for wisdom. And every time God delivered, answers would just come. They would just come, you know, out of the sky. They would come from heaven. And so ask God for wisdom. Also, another strategic prayer is you want to ask God for grace. You know, grace will give you that ability to be able to be sustained in the situation where the situation doesn't overtake you. You have this peaceful stance in the situation where you know that everything is going to be just fine. You know, sometimes it's hard to see that when you're in the thick of things, you know, but that's where your faith comes in, and so you have to ask God for increased faith. You know, the faith to believe that this too shall pass. The faith to believe that God is going to turn this situation around. The faith to believe that God is going to touch their hearts and help them not just see things from their perspective or whatever your situation is that's causing you to feel disconnected. Maybe it's on your job, you're being ridiculed or you're being targeted. Maybe it's in your marriage. Maybe it's in your health. You've tried everything that you know to lose weight, but you just can't stay committed to something. Maybe it's terminal illness. Maybe your family is just all chaotic. Whatever it is, you have the faith to see your side on the other side of this thing. So the first step when you feel disconnected is to pray, is to have a heart-to-heart with God. The second thing that I did is I made sure to find things that brought me joy, to do things that brought me joy. Sitting in the park. I'm from St. Louis, Missouri, and so I have a favorite spot that I always go to. It energizes me. It encourages me. It helps me have clarity. It helps me reconnect to myself, to God, to just life in general, and that's a lake, Creve Coeur Lake. And I would go sit by the lake, and I would just close my eyes and just breathe. And so I want you to make a conscious decision to choose every day to do something that brings you joy. It could be your favorite snack. It could be to watch your favorite YouTube video and an inspirational message, or listen to your favorite song. It could be to go for a walk. Whatever it is that brings you joy, you want to make time to do that in your life, because that's going to help you have a balance, because all of your attention is not going to what you're facing or what you're dealing with. You give a piece of yourself to something that brings you joy, and so that's really going to help you. So number 2 is every day, not some days, but every day, you want to choose to do something that brings you joy and laughter. So this is like a 2/A, but a lot of times what I'll do too is on any given night, I'll pop me some popcorn. I know it's not good for your teeth, but your girl loves it. But I'll pop me some popcorn, and I'll put butter and a little iodized salt on it. I know it ain't good for you, but it ain't every day, though, So I will pop me some popcorn. I will get me my favorite drink, which is water. I love water. And I would look on my cable television and find a comedian to watch that I've never seen before, and I would just watch it and laugh. Now, if they're not funny, I'm not going to sit there and watch it. Or on Pandora, I would put it on like the Kevin Hart station or a comedian station, and I would just turn it on and I would just listen. And what it does is, before you know it, you are tapping into your inner riches, which is joy. And we know from the Word of God that the joy of the Lord is our strength. And so when you open yourself up and free yourself, give yourself permission to laugh, to have fun, it just does something to you. It gives you hope, and it gives you that that feeling that, you know what, everything is going to be okay. Forgive me, y'all. I have a little bit of a cold that I'm getting over. But I just want to say, for anybody that's tuning in, this is Rise and Win Coach Cynthia Newell of Dare to Dream, where I teach women how to give voice to their vision so it has full expression in their life. Full expression. I like that. Full expression. Okay. Anyway, you can connect with me on my website, www.cynthiasnewell.com. I have a lot of great free gifts there for you. You can also connect with me on Facebook. You can find me, Poetess Cynthia Newells. I am a poet, published author. You can also find me on Dare to Dream, Spiritual Life Coaching Practice on Facebook, From Powerless to Powerful on Facebook. You can connect with me on Twitter at Dare to Dream. I am on Periscope. You can connect with me there. I'm kind of a little bit of everywhere, but I hope that you're being blessed by what we're talking about tonight. 3 things to do when you feel disconnected. So the first thing is to pray. Have a little talk with Jesus. Tell him all about your troubles. He will answer your prayer. Y'all remember that song, Have a Little Talk with Jesus? Okay, anyway. So number 2 is every day choose to do something that brings you joy. Yeah, you might indulge in your snack, but don't let that be the thing you choose every day, because then you'll start to feel disconnected from yourself, because then you won't be able to fit any more of your clothes. You know, been down there and ain't trying to go back. So number 3, you want to talk to yourself. You have to talk to yourself. When you feel disconnected, you're not talking to nobody else. Like I said, for me, I didn't talk anymore. I wasn't my normal self anymore, and so I pulled away from everybody. I didn't want to talk. I love my husband. I love my kids, but y'all leave me alone. Go over there. Find you something to eat. Leave me alone. I was upset because I felt like they were not doing what I wanted them to do. You know, how selfish of me. But talking to yourself brings clarity. It helps you get to the core of what's really going on inside of you. See, I am a firm believer, and I only believe this because I've experienced this and continue to in my life, that everything that we experience, it's tied to a core feeling. You know, there's a core reason why you feel this, or it's something, you know, associating with something else. And so in my situation, I felt like I was not being honored, like I didn't matter. That's how I felt, and that's how I felt a lot coming up, being bullied, just some other things that happened. I'm not focusing on all the negativity of my past, but there was some reasons. There was a foundation to build up on that, feeling as though I didn't matter. And so in my home, I started to feel like I didn't matter, and I learned this through talking to myself. So I am a very inquisitive person. As a coach, I ask questions to help you get clarity, and I have a free gift for you. So I want you to go to my website, www.cynthiasnewell.com, and under the resources tab, I have a gift for you there. And it is 7 reflective questions to ask yourself when you're feeling disconnected. And it's going to help you get to the core of why you're feeling disconnected and the core feelings there. And so you can take that to God in prayer, and you can be strategic about what you're dealing with. See, no one does has anything to do with you, and nothing you do have anything to do with anybody else. And I say that to say how you're feeling is something that needs to be healed. How I was feeling abandoned, feeling as though I didn't matter, that needed to be healed. And the healing was not going to come from my husband and my children. It was going to come from God. Me knowing that allowed me to be able to take that to the Lord and get healing. And so I want to support you in that way of bringing clarity to you. What's making you feel disconnected? Helping you get to the root cause of it. So be sure to stop by the Resource Center. You're going to scroll all the way down to the bottom, past the books, past the e-books, and you're going to go to where I have the information about the Elation Radio Show, From Powerless to Powerful, with your host, Cynthia Newell. All right, so right below the Declaration of Restoration Prayer, you will see a link. It's going to be a document, and it's really for you to journal. But me, I like to talk things out, so I journal in a couple of ways. I write out. I'm an avid writer. I got about 15 to 50 journals, y'all. And when they have those notebooks on sale at Walmart, like 10 cents, like my family hates me because I buy like 2 or 3 boxes of those things. I just love notebooks. Like, I love to write. I love pens. I love, anyway, the turn of paper. Okay, that's my secret fetish. So what's yours? No, but seriously, if you go to the website and you look down below, on the Resource Center page, you'll see a link that's going to take you to this document. I really want you to do this because I really want you to understand the core of what's making you feel disconnected, because when you know, you can grow and you can heal, and so that's how I want to support you. And so we've talked about a lot today, and I said I wanted to keep my podcast to about 30 minutes. I went a little bit over, but I hope that you found value in today's podcast. If you have like a pressing emotional crisis that's going on in your life and you need support, you can submit your question or dilemma to me on my website, right in that area where you're going to find the reflective questions to ask yourself when you're feeling disconnected. You submit your question, and then I'm going to answer your question on the next show. So feel free, get the support. I mean, I've been through a lot. There's really not a lot that will surprise me in life, but because I've been through a lot of things, and God has just gifted me with wisdom, but most of all, compassion for people, So if you need prayer support and you really don't want an answer, you just need me to pray with you and partner my faith with your faith, put your prayer request down there and just put, in the comment section that this is a prayer request. I go before the Lord every day at 4, well, not every day, but most days, at 4 o'clock in the morning to intercede, and I would love to intercede and pray for you. So, again, today we talked about, 3 things to do when you're feeling disconnected. I hope that you found this information valuable. I would love to hear your comments, your feedback, your aha moments on my Facebook page, From Powerless to Powerful. You can also like the page and then put your comment there. Help me reach my goal of getting, I think it's 300 likes. I've kind of been out over the summer just trying to regroup, but I'm back, full effect. I'm back. Oh, I sing too, y'all. So one day y'all probably hear me sing. But I love God's people. I love, life. I have went through enough headache and heartache to know that there is another side to life, because I'm on that other side, and I want to support you in getting to your other side too. And so I hope that you'll stay tuned and join me on our next podcast, where we're going to be talking about, I don't know yet. I really don't know. I had a lot of things. I think that God is leading me to talk about establishing boundaries with family members, because I have 2 adult children now, and it's been some type of ride with these chicks. And I've had to set some boundaries, and it seems like the boundaries get overlooked. But God has given me wisdom and grace and given them mercy. Somebody say mercy, for me not to give them a Holy Ghost butt whooping. But anyway, join me next time. We're going to be here Saturday, October the 10th. And guess what, y'all? That is my 6th wedding anniversary. We made it 6 years. So even though we separated 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, who's counting? We've separated quite a few times, but we know that God brought us together, and we are celebrating 6 years of marriage. So stop by my Facebook page and say happy anniversary on the 10th, or you could join me live on the show, listen live, by going to the Spreaker Network, Elation Gospel Radio on Spreaker Network, or you can dial in and listen to the show live and ask me questions and things like that. So check me out on the 10th. Until next time, I want you to make it a great day. I love you. Bye.